Okay, I've been promising you a video on the build of the micro tiny house, but the weather hasn't been kind to me, and finally I've got an opportunity to get out and do it. So 6.5 weeks ago, I had this crazy idea. Could I build a tiny house for less than the cost of 6 months worth the cheapest rent I can find? That led to a challenge: build a tiny house for $4,000 in 4 weeks. Now I didn't quite make it and went a little bit over on both of those, but today I'm going to show you what I created. So here it is, the micro tiny house. This thing is modest 2.7 by 1.8 with a 0.7 bump out. This old girl started life as a farm trailer. She was looking pretty worse for wear when I got her, but I got her here, brought it back to life, boxed it out and strengthened it, ready to have a build on it. So this house is 2.7 from the ground to the top. It's a timber stud frame and cladded with custom or ColourBond monument, and then trimmed out with custom flashings. The windows on this house are predominantly recycled glass. So my two smaller windows I've made by getting custom flashings bent up and then sealing glass directly into them. It was a great idea to save me money, but posed a number of challenges. I think I ran on the assumption that everyone would make things with the same degree of accuracy as I would. So variation in the flashings made that difficult to get that right, but I did get it right, and I've hit them with the hose from every angle. They're nice and watertight, and they look pretty cool. So I like the look of them, a cheap option. Would I do it again? Maybe. I certainly wouldn't do them on windows any bigger than those, but they have been quite an effective option for me. My main window is made out of recycled jarrah. So these were window timbers pulled out of a demolished house. I cleaned them all up and machined them, jointed them into small windows. So it's a 4-pane bifold window and 2 panes fold out to either side. These are one of my favourite parts. It's brings heaps of light into the house, makes the kitchen look much bigger than it is, and I think sets me up for a small little herb garden or window garden just below the windows later on. Round to the main entrance. I love this thing. This would have to be my favourite part of the house. So I've got a full-size door. It was taken from a renovation. I got it, restored it and painted it red. Thank you to everyone who suggested painting it red. I honestly wouldn't have thought of that, and I love how it looks against the eye of the timber. Just looks brilliant. So this angled overhang. When I was framing that up, I'm like, I'm going to pay for this, aren't I? And I did, in both time and money on that one. But for me, I love it. It frames the entrance. It gives shape to the house so it doesn't just look like a square black box. It looks really good. In fact, it was an important lesson for me too. I think, I mean, to be honest, this thing probably cost me $200 to do, which was a lot out of my budget. But I think the lesson that was, do work you're proud of. Do work you enjoy seeing. Every time I walk up to this house now, I really enjoy looking at this entrance, and that angled overhang is part of it. So spend a little bit of extra money. In the long term, it's worth the satisfaction you get out of these things. So favourite part of the house, a couple LED lights there at night time. Light shines down on the iron, lights up a door, just looks brilliant. Hot water comes from this instant hot water service here. So this is just a camping unit, provides like 4 litres per minute, which isn't much, but more than enough for a shower and fill up a small sink. The brilliant part about these is they just hook straight onto a 9 kilo gas bottle, and you've got hot water. So great little unit, got me sorted. Okay, there's one other thing about the exterior of this micro tiny house that I haven't shared with you yet. And I kept pretty quiet along the way, but I'm excited to share it. See that silver frame up along the top there? That's solar panels. This little tiny house has a 1 kilowatt solar roof on it. So when I was building this thing, I built this completely off grid. The power to run the welder, the power tools, everything has all come from the sun. So when I designed and built my system originally for my workshop, I came across a deal for some brand new Seraphim panels I just could not go past. But it meant I ended up with 3 panels left over. Now, when I came to building the micro tiny house, it just so happened those 3 panels were exactly the same size as my roof. So I decided to make a solar roof. This little thing, all it needs is a solar controller, a couple batteries, and it can power itself anywhere. It's the other reason that I've gone for all low voltage lights and fans. The draw on this thing is less than 10 amps with everything running. So a few extra parts and this thing can be completely off grid, powering itself anywhere. Okay, moving inside. So my design brief for this was simple. I wanted a bed that I didn't have to fold up. I had to have a shower and toilet, which was going to be challenging in a space like this. And I wanted ample kitchen space. So having lived off a camp table for some time, I knew the importance of having a place I could prep my food, have my coffee machine, and a place to clean up. And I also wanted a wardrobe where I could keep shoes and clothes and stuff that are out of the way and look neat and tidy. Okay, first of all, the entrance. So it's a small part of the house, but it was important to me that when I walked into the house, I didn't feel immediately cramped. So I've made this a bit wider than everything else inside the house. So it's full width of the door. I can walk in, kick off my boots. But it was also important because it doubles the space for the wardrobe and the toilet. So it allows me to comfortably pull out drawers, and when the toilet door opens, create space for the toilet. To the left of the entrance is the wardrobe. So tons of hanging space, and it's long enough to take a full length coat. I've put a shelf in here as opposed to just going straight to a drawer. So when I walk in, I can put stuff there as well, like keys and phone, etc. A drawer for things that I want to hide away, and then these slide out shelves. So I've gone with slide out shelves because it allows me to utilize the full height of the shelf. As opposed to leaving room to be able to filter through my clothes, I can slide them out, fold through the garments that I want, pull it out, then push it back away and use the full height. These shelves are wide enough to fit 2 garments side by side, and with 3 shelves high, I've got tons of storage. Then the bottom shelf, somewhere I can kick my shoes off, put them way underneath, so it keeps this entrance nice and clean. So on the right hand side of that entrance is the toilet. Toilet's hidden away inside the cupboard here. I've put it at the rear of the house so that if I need to use a toilet, I can duck in here without walking through the rest of the house. I've created this bifold door so that when I open the door, I can open the door around me as I'm standing in the entrance without having to like sort of shimmy around a door. The door then opens and creates privacy to the rest of the house and the main window, and creates a cool little toilet nook. The toilet is just a simple composting bucket system. It's got a ventilation fan in there to create negative pressure and ventilate out any smells. The other thing I've done is I've put through some drainage underneath. So what I really want to do is come back and turn this into a self-draining bucket system. Much like the expensive toilets you can buy for like $2,000 that sort of drain away excess fluid, as opposed to diverting, I really want to create that in a DIY bucket version. So stick with me, I'll come back and show what I create there. Okay, coming inside. So at the front, we have a full-size single bed with tons of storage underneath. There's room for an inverter and batteries can be ducted outside, and all the low voltage wiring goes down there. Even with that, there's still tons of storage up the front here. The cool thing about this though is, and I designed the whole house around this, literally to the width of this bench, is I can fit a double mattress in here. So later on, if I want to build some slide out supports, I can house a double mattress, and the height of the ceiling is just enough for the mattress to fold up and store out of the way. Then this becomes a couch. So if I ever want to house 2 people in this tiny house, I can. Coming around into the kitchen. So I've got a full length bench top. It's 2 meters long by 450 deep. Plenty of room for a coffee machine, prep area, and somewhere to wash up. That's a 300 by 450 sink, which is proving more than ample in such a small space. You'll notice a distinct lack of storage, and that's deliberate. I'm really big on human design and creating things around how we function. And this is the only space in the house that I can actually put readily usable storage. So what I'm going to do is create it as I go, and I'm going to share that, but create storage that I actually need. So I'm already seeing the need for things like a linen hamper, a bin, a slide out bench so I can sit on the bed and eat dinner, other things like that that I probably wouldn't have built in if I had just built cupboards. So that way I can create storage that has far greater utility than just putting in a whole suite of cupboards. And finally, the window. I love this window in the kitchen. It brings in heaps of light. It makes the kitchen look so much bigger. And when these things are open, it's just so cool to have the outside coming in. Really like that part of the kitchen. So up the front here, we have the shower. I built the shower and the bump out over the drawbar because I really wanted to keep weight over the drawbar down. And the shower is pretty much an empty void. So the whole shower has been waterproof from floor to ceiling, all the joints fiberglassed, and the waterproofing comes around into the main part of the house in behind these reveals. I then lined it with tile look vinyl flooring, which aside from cutting and gluing that stuff on, which was just a whole other task in itself, it has worked out to be a really cost-effective and great looking option, and it's light. And it's super easy to clean, which is great. So then the floor in this thing, I've done a Merbau decking floor. So the reason for that is to try and take vinyl down over the flooring and marry that up in the corners, particularly with some of the angles in this thing, would have been a nightmare. Whereas the decking sits up above the waterproofing, looks great and gives me really good drainage. So what I've done is I've siliconed aluminium strips over the top of the waterproofing to protect it, and then the decking floor sits on top of that. Other thing I've done is put a little window in there. So the window gives depth to the house. When you walk in, there's this window that disappears around the corner, looks really cool. Illuminates it, otherwise this thing just would have been like a dark box. And when you're in there and showering in the morning, looks awesome being able to look out over a view. Yet to see how the Merbau is going to hold up in the shower, but to be honest, this stuff's used in full weather conditions anyway, so I think if I keep it oiled, I should be okay. And finally, the lighting. So the lighting is all low voltage LED with touch sensors. So I have one main strip that runs down through the center of the house. Then over the kitchen here, I have a window light that glows down on the work area. So when you're using that space, illuminates it well for you. Up the front here, the shower has two LED downlights and also controls the ventilation fan. And then over here, and this is my favorite light, is a small window light that glows up into the window and onto the ceiling. That's really nice at night, just puts a soft glow in the house, great for reading. And also when I want to get up and go to the toilet, I'm not being blinded by this thing. Then up the back here, the toilet has a small LED downlight that's on a motion sensor. And finally, two LED downlights in the overhang, which look awesome at night when it's lit up and it lights up the back of the house. So there it is, the build of the micro tiny house. The key question is, how'd we go on time and budget? So I think I might have been better aiming for 5 and 5. Total build time came out at 5.5 weeks. This thing was pretty much complete in 5 weeks, but I was still waiting some materials, so I had to count the extra time I spent putting them on. So total time, 5.5 weeks. Budget came out at $4,913. That was a bit more than what I wanted to go over, but I think there were some lessons in that for me as well. And I'll do a separate video on budget and talk about where I had some splurges and unexpected expenses. But I think the takeaway for me is going fast and doing things cheap, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Had I had more time, I could have sourced a lot more reused and recycled materials and saved a lot more money. Likewise, working with those materials takes a lot of time. The other thing is, do work that you're proud of. I really enjoy looking at this house when I walk up to it. The overhang here probably cost me a couple $100 and contributed to blowing out the budget. My windows cost me $60, but 2-3 days in labor. Either way, I think the investment up front is definitely worth the long-term satisfaction you get out of these things. They're a labor of love, so spend the time that you want to spend doing it, and if you need to spend a bit more money, spend it. It's definitely worth it in the long run. So I'm going to continue to do a little bit more to this house. I'll share with you as I go along the way, and stick with me as I prepare to build my main tiny house.